Hello, my name is Ken Eades. I'm a professor here at the Darden Graduate School of Business Administration, and we're talking today about the first year finance course in which I teach. And first of all, let me tell you just a little bit about how the course is structured and what I'm going to speak about right now. The first year course is over 2 terms, the fall term and the spring term. At the end of the fall term, we will have given them all the pieces of the puzzle in terms of making a capital investment decision. What I'd like to speak about is how we begin the next module following the fall term, the first module of the spring term, which we call Financial Policies and Tactics. It actually breaks into 2 pieces. The first part, Financial Policies, is really about the debt equity choice, the optimal capital structure. And we teach that by starting out with one case called Gainsborough. The Gainsborough case is about the dividend decision and how to think about the dividend decision. Is it the residual amount of money we have left over after we make all the investment decisions and the cash flows are already allocated to all the other pieces of the enterprise? Or is it a conscious decision in terms of part of your capital structure? In other words, do we want our dividend per share to fluctuate wildly depending on the fortunes of the company, or do we want that to be pretty much a fixed either percentage of earnings or a fixed amount per share? And why would we care about that? And why would the investors care about it? The whole question about relevance of dividends is a very interesting one in the world of finance, and a nice way to get students to start thinking about that there's 2 different worlds. One of them is the investment decision. How do we create value by investing in the right pieces of the enterprise? And then the financing decision. Where do we get the money? Turns out that the dividends is part of the financing decision, because the more you pay out in dividends, the more we either have to borrow or we have to get more equity. It's all in the mix. So that starts their thinking about how to think about the financing decision. From there we go into a very simple exercise. It's called debt policy and value. It's really more of an exercise than a case study, because a lot of it is just to fill in the blanks of proving the Modigliani and Miller irrelevance theorems of capital structure. So what this does is progressively take the students through steps to show them how to value a company, free cash flows, weighted average cost of capital, how those things change when debt is tax deductible, what happens to the cost of capital. Nothing happens to the free cash flow, of course. But why does the value increase with that? And so we show them through this highly structured exercise that debt by itself does not add value, but that the tax deductibility of debt certainly adds value. And that creates a tension then about, well, gee, why don't we borrow 100% debt? So we go from that exercise to a case called California Pizza Kitchen, which is a new case that we've written about a company which has a heavy management bias toward no borrowing. And you see this a lot in corporations where just the personality of the corporation is very risk averse, particularly on issues like debt. But the question comes up, if debt is tax advantaged, why wouldn't a profitable company like California Pizza Kitchen issue debt, and maybe even issue the debt to retire some of its stock? So this gets students starting thinking about what are the consequences of literally substituting debt for equity, which is exactly what they did in the exercise before, but it was a little abstract for the debt policy and value case. Now it's very real for a decision for this pizza company. We follow that with a MCI Communications case. This was about a huge debt restructuring, an equity buyback using debt, the largest at the time when the case was written. And this brings up the same issues, many of the issues that came in California Pizza, except on steroids. This is a huge decision. It's going to have huge ramifications for this telecom company. And it's probably going to change their debt rating. And so now students have to add a little bit of abstract thought. It's not just about the numbers. It's also about what's going to change in the profile of this company to the market. Well, their debt rating is going to change. That's going to increase their cost of debt. Should I put that into my calculations? And also we're starting to introduce students into levered betas, and so how the cost of equity changes with adding the debt. So now the whole package is there. I add more debt, I increase the cost of equity, I increase the cost of debt, I still have the tax deductibility. At what point do I stop adding value and actually destroy value for the company? And of course there's a large gray area here, but it creates a good circumstance to discuss with students the notion that financing can create value, but it can also destroy value because of the risk that it creates.